Welcome back, everyone. NanMan here, and we are back at NanMan's Nerd Corner, showing off some modern action from our LGS Comic Kung Fu, and we've got Jeskai Burn versus Hardened Scales. Now, Hardened Scales ebbs and flows. I mean, there pretty much has become a go-to artifact deck within Modern, which is the affinity shells. All right, being able to utilize Kappa Cannoneers, being able to utilize all of that kind of shenanigans that red gives you access to, like the manufacturers and things like that, as well as being able to do some other shenanigans. This is caring about +1/+1 counters and the explosiveness with green that allows you to kind of potentially win out of nowhere. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out and how that kind of plays out in this matchup. On the other side of things, this burn list is very similar to the old school Boros burn. There are specific blue cards that are in here that we'll talk about when they show up, because it is very much reminiscent of when Treasure Cruise was released, for those that were playing or remember during that time, but right before it was banned, everybody was playing it. It was such a good card that it's like, hey, I'm a burn deck and I'm splashing blue just for this card. Right, so there's a specific cards we'll see, but getting into this match in particular, Malevolent Rumble going to mill off 4 cards from the library. We're going to find a specific permanent that we want, which is going to be the Zabaz. So we're in our setup phase as a Hardened Scales player, just sort of assembling the pieces we need, and the namesake of the deck comes out, Hardened Scales, followed by Zabaz. We'll get 2 counters on it instead of 1. So that nice little modular does get increased by the Hardened Scales itself. So you can already start to see the pieces, and what is starting to be assembled here is what the deck wants to try to do. The other side of things, this burn deck is very different than some other variations of red decks. I mean, there's not many burn decks that stick around anymore in Modern. It used to be kind of a staple of like, hey, you want a nice, easy way to get into the format? Play this deck. Right, a lot of people used to have a very specific view of what they assumed red decks were, and like, oh my gosh, there's no skill, it's so easy, you just sit here and you play your spells and that's it, and you don't have to worry about what's going on. But like, there is a lot of nuance to burn and sequencing and understanding when to fire off certain spells and when to be able to utilize certain creatures. The deck lists don't tend to run too many creatures. Goblin Guide is one of them. Eidolon, things like that. So we'll see how many creatures show up here. There's also some other creatures people have started to add in, like some players are utilizing Flage because of its Helix ability, and just sort of like, all right, it's gone long enough, let's finish things off with a Flage. We'll see if that will be the case in this matchup here. But on the other side, we got to see the Arcbound. Of course, trigger every time Goblin Guide attacks, you do reveal. If it's a land, it goes to your hand. Otherwise, it just is revealed for players to know and see what's going on. So the debate: do we block here? That's risky, but also it's sitting here and mathing it out. You can see our Hardened Scales player. She's sitting there and kind of going through it and goes, okay, here are the 2 cards I have in hand with what I have on the battlefield, and knowing there's a Zabaz coming up, if I block and then you start firing off spells, it becomes a bit challenging. So Lava Spike goes directly to the face, and now it's that kind of, okay, how many spells do you have left? You're leaving 2 mana up and still have 4 cards in hand, so this could be a risk. But if you've never played against it, we've seen some of the cards so far, but Zabaz coming out here, and now this sort of opens up this window here. But we'll see where is the kind of go. Like, if you So if you've never played against this deck, Arcbound Ravager is the crucial piece to being able to do some explosive turns. Loading Zone now, since it got printed in Edge of Eternities, has added that, like, doubled up in that sense, because this doubles the counters that you get, twice that many. So with Hardened Scales, right, that's going to increase from 1 to 2, and then that 2 goes to 4, and it's like boom, 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 snowball elements here. So we go, let's eat this Zabaz with Arcbound Ravager. We've got triggers that are going to be going on the stack here. So, hey, these counters are going to increase. Let's sit here, and we've got this sort of hovering counters. You see the dice underneath of these creatures waiting as the Hardened Scales increases at the loading zone, twice that many as well. So we've got this sort of window where our Jeskai Burn players looking. You can see they've got that Searing Blaze in hand to deal 3 damage, but with the luck of having the additional artifacts available, it's going to be tough. But we're going to try to fight over it. So there's the Searing Blaze. Landfall, so we will deal 3 here. And 3 to the face. We will eat this, put extra counters. And Searing Blaze will go. That'll, of course, drop our Hardened Scales player down to 5. And now all of these counters are there, which will then be eaten. Arcbound will eat itself and move all of those counters to deal 1 big one-shot infect power. We love to see it. Infect supporters on this channel, 100% there. So, look, you can see, there's the spoilers. Okay, look at these blue cards that this Jeskai Burn has access to. So that's the thing, right? It looks very traditional stuff, but it goes, oh, but what if I just, keep the 1 or 2 blue lands hidden?
We're interrupting our gameplay to let you know about our new affiliate with NerdGear. nerdgear.gg/nanman will take you directly to the website, and as you can see, they've got a bunch of awesome gaming accessories from playmats, life counters with the life tracks, playmat holders, and more. So make sure you do some browsing on the site, find some goodies, and then use the code NGNanman for 5% off your entire order. But let's get back to our gameplay.
But as I was saying, we got to see the glimpse. You keep the blue mana hidden as long as possible if you can, and then you have access to Riddlers and Consigned to Memories and these blue, really powerful blue cards that exist in Modern now. And you're just like, oh no, surprise! I actually have access to these things. So up to this point, you're just like, here's traditional Boros Burn, and it worked out really well there. Of setting things up, and here's one of our creatures, Swift Spear, but it wasn't enough with the explosiveness that Hardened Scales was able to deploy with the loading zone. So we are getting into game number 2, post-sideboard stuff, and now we're going to kind of sort of dive into things. And we'll see. Fetching. But yeah, Swift Spear, Eidolon, and Goblin Guides are the go-to traditional stuff. Sometimes players will put in a slick shot, but if you're starting to go that route, you're basically leaning heavier into a prowess build, and at that point we might as well just get Corey Steelcutter, and then you're on a brand new deck, where the burn style is very much a spell slinging deck where you're Bolt Wave, Lightning Bolt, all these type of effects that sit here and kind of make something happen. But Ancient Stirring is going to be a setup here. We're going to go digging at the top, looking for any sort of colorless card that we want. This could be a land, and speaking of land, that's the one that helped us win the game in game number 1 with the Inkmoth there. So that grab here to do a setup. So what do you all think of our review of some of the tournament stuff? We're going to post up a couple more of those review VODs up. If you had not heard a little bit of the kind of rumblings, there was a little bit of a cheating scandal at the event. It took place. Player was since banned, but we'll talk more about that as it. But we're seeing a double Swift Spear Bolt Wave just sort of burst through here and drop our Hardened Scales player down very low in life. But look at that's the speed. Also, we got to reveal the blue land here. But do we have combat coming in? That's a 1/1 Skull Crack. Let's do an even more amount. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. You see the kind of drop to 3. I think there was a life total somewhere. Miss. I think maybe I forgot to count the fetch. I don't know. But the players were communicating and saying that our Hardened Scales player was at 3 here. But look, we have the loading zone. We have the Inkmoth. We're missing the Arcbound to kind of set up the way we did before, but we are going to warp. And here's a Walking Ballista. Triggers. And it's technically not in the graveyard here. With it being warped, it gets into the warp zone. Basically is placed in exile that we can be able to utilize later on. So it says, okay, 2 of these are not a burn spell. One is pick one at your own risk. Nope, that's not it. I'll reveal this one. Here, what's this one? Oh yeah, 2 of them are burn spell, 1. So yeah, so there we go. There's the skull crack for the 3 damage. So, ooh, the other one was a goblin guide. All right, tied up 1-1 here. So that was the speed and why players used to love the burn deck. This sort of like, I'll just string and chain a bunch of spells together, make something happen with this, and see how well you could do it. And life gain has kind of fallen off a bit when it comes to modern, as most players are just sort of like doing my thing, with the exception of Flage, right? Flage has that Helix ability in there. Deal 3, gain 3. If you're on a Yawgmoth list, you do have some ways of doing that, especially with kind of our new Badger Mole builds and stuff we've talked about on the channel and seen on the channel before. But, you know, we've got a lot of different decks available and different matchups to see. So if there's a specific one you want to see, let us know. We've got Elves coming up next week, and we're also going to be doing some more of the breakdown from the tournament. We've got, I believe, Boros Energy versus a Bant Birthing Ritual deck. That'll be the next one that shows up, and then we'll kind of keep going through and show off a little bit more of the tournament there. But it should be really exciting to show off some more of the modern stuff for you guys to be able to join it. Searing Blaze going to clear the path here, pop open that artifact. We'll be left with a Thopter, and look at this reveal from the land there. So yeah, some players have moved off of the Hangerback Walker. I like having at least like a 1 of in the list. You know, being able to make a bunch of creatures can be really relevant for Arcbound Ravager. But I'm also still on the Simic version of Hardened Scales, where a lot of players have pivoted off that and gone into the red-green one. For a lot of reasons. There's a lot of really powerful red cards. We see one in hand right now with Galvanic Discharge, but we'll see what is going to come here as our next Goblin Guide gets dropped down. So that is going to be at least 2 triggers and 2 2/2s coming across. First trigger will reveal 1 land. Second trigger's a Ballista. Block here. And before damage, Discharge will shoot the other one. Let's see what sort of response and we're going to have. Are we going... Because this is that, like, opportunity here for the burn player to try to get rid of the Arcbound, because there's only 2 artifacts out, one of which is itself, and you don't want to be in a spot where you're like, well, I guess I'm losing... Yeah, so we'll say, and I'll also sacrifice this to this. But yeah, look, you see a bolt in hand. That's the other thing, too, is like we've talked about navigating and knowing the lines of burn and how sometimes you have to be able to be like, when am I going up top and when am I dealing with the creatures on the board? And right now, we've dropped the Hardened Scales player to 9. So now she's got to sit here and piece together something. We see Ballista for 1. Ballista for 1. So 1 and 2 power sitting here with all these. Of course, the Walking Ballista allows a little bit of machine gunning damage that can take place, but we'll see as a wall is going to get created against the Goblin Guide. Now, there are more artifacts now, so the normal sort of let's bolt and kill off the Arcbound could be like cleared up and eaten, so that's not going to be the case. So we redirect all this damage up to the face, dropping our Hardened Scales player to 6 life here, which is also telling if we're in that mode. We're saying, all right, I got 14 life. I don't think you can kill me next turn. All right, so how can I set myself up for the easiest way to win? Well, one of it is I just basically need 2 spells here. All right, another land revealed as Goblin Guide pushes in. Do some blocking. Pass priority on blocks. Damage happens. Target. We're going to let Arcbound die. And, oh, a smash to Smithereens. That's going to basically negate these counters that are going to go on. So we're going to at least be able to absorb and not take the damage off that. And we'll deal 1 here, but that was a pretty tough turn basically trading off, I'll get rid of this Goblin Guide and a Smash to Smithereens for your Arcbound, which you need in order to sort of like snowball the wins, and your Walking Ballista. So very nice turn there. But still a lot of options available here. Next Walking Ballista hits the battlefield, followed by a Zabaz. And still have access to the Ink Moth. I like the sort of waiting right now. So if any of these creatures start, or like if Zabaz died, we can easily put that counter on our Ink Moth if we wanted to. All right, Bolt Wave, 3 damage to your opponent. I like Bolt Wave addition, right? That's like the nice thing for Burn players here. I need to get a set. I built Burn back up, but I still have the Skewer the Critics in that slot. That should be a Bolt Wave, so I gotta update that accordingly. But bringing the damage. Looks like we're gonna put a counter on one of our Walking Ballistas. Response, we're gonna do a Boros Charm for 4. And, oh, Tamiyo Safekeeping, giving this Hexproof and gaining 2 life. Actually having that life gain here is huge, because that means that our Hardened Scale player just dropped to 1. Ooh. All right, so they're just going through and checking through the life total here. Confirming, okay, this did this. I burned you for this. Did you fetch? Did you shock? Let's confirm. Okay, I've got you at this life. Very important to do that. Hey, off the top, the lava spike there. Oof. What do we think? What do we think about this? Like, it's not often we see either of these 2 decks, so I liked showcasing this matchup in particular because, you know, decks that we aren't used to seeing on camera, and now we get to go into and see a little bit of the sideboard options that these players were able to bring in here. So Tamiyo Safekeeping, Galvanic Discharge. Yeah, double of the Safekeeping, double Discharge. Quite a lot brought in for our Jeskai Burn player. Do we get to see any of it? I know they were being flipped face down, but... Oh, okay, so there was the consigns and stuff like that. We're not going to see... Oh, that's funny. It's like, so why are you running blue? And the response was for fun and for money. Not going to tell you. And then it's like, just kidding. Here's the Riddler. Love to see it there. So, yeah, the players having some fun with that one. Thought you guys might enjoy a little bit of a different gameplay for you to experience there. But if you like this stuff, consider following, subscribing, all that good stuff. But that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, y'all. And I'll see you all next game.